What's up guys, John here, and welcome to Baltimore Retro Gaming. And if you guys watch my channel, you guys know that I love shoot 'em ups. It's one of my favorite genres of games. But there's another genre that I love equally as much, and that's RPGs. And there's one system that it's loaded with many great RPGs, and it's a handheld, and that system is the PSP. Now, I'm not knocking the DS or the 3DS because they had many great games, RPGs at least, released on those systems. But in my eyes, they can't touch the PSP. The PSP just has everything. So we're going to look at the games that I have, the RPGs anyway, on the system, and just kind of go through them. And I don't know if I'm going to capture game footage for all of these games. I might for a couple, but maybe not. I don't want to make the video too long. And another thing, my kid, he doesn't watch my videos. At least I don't think that he does. But today is his birthday, and this came out today. So Malcolm, if you're watching this video, hopefully this didn't spoil your birthday present, but he never watches my videos, so let's just see if he watches the videos, and if he does, he knows what I got him for his birthday. But anyways, guys, PSP, let's check it out. Okay, so I have two piles of games here. The first pile of games are either the games that I played a long time ago, or games that I haven't played yet. Now, I do want to explain something. When I got a lot of these PSP games, I got a lot of them from, I got a lot of them from Best Buy. At the time in downtown Baltimore in the Inner Harbor, if you're familiar, there was a Best Buy. It was in like this like tower shopping center. It's kind of hard to explain. But at that time, this was like between like 2008 and 2012. I remember Best Buy blowing out the prices on a lot of these PSP games. So a lot of them I got brand new, and I got them really cheap. And although PSP games are not very expensive, you can still get many of them really cheap. They're very rare, at least out here. For me, finding PSP games, I can find the same sports titles I see everywhere I go, but these games, a lot of them are very rare. So you're probably going to be forced to buying a lot of these games online, unless you have like an awesome like retro store in your area. So anyways, guys, so the first game I'm going to show you is Generation of Chaos. This is an NIS America game. I remember I played this, but it's been years since I've touched this game, so I don't really remember much about it. I just remember that it is an RPG. So yeah, Generation of Chaos. This is a decent strategy RPG, and that is Tactics Ogre. I'm going to try to go through some of these games fast, at least this first pile. This game I wouldn't really call it an RPG. It has some RPG elements, like action RPG elements, and that's Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. Another RPG. I remember I played this and really didn't like it a whole lot, Lord of Arcana. And this RPG I remember being very difficult. That's all I remember about this game is how difficult it was. But we got Blade Dancer, Lineage of Light. This was a fun, lighthearted RPG from what I remember. That's Miyamana Chronicle. Keep in mind, guys, I don't even have half the RPGs on the system. Just keep that in mind. Like, I don't have the first game to this series, so this is Star Ocean Second Evolution. I do believe I own a version of this on the PS1, and that's actually where I played the game for the first time. And I think there's one called First Departure, which is pretty much a Super Famicom game that they ported over to the PSP because we never got it over here in the United States. But yeah, Star Ocean Second Evolution, definitely check it out. It's like a $20 PSP game. It's really good. This is considered to be the third game in the Parasite Eve franchise, and that is the third birthday on the PSP. Now, this game I haven't played yet, and I bought it brand new. I actually got it at Kmart. It's still got the sticker on it, and that's Final Fantasy II. And then I have Final Fantasy I. And I do believe this is a remake from the NES version. Pretty sure. And now there's a few games in this series. That's the Legend of Heroes series. This is Legend of Heroes Tear of Vermilion. And I have Persona 1. Now, I had to reprint cover art for this game, and I know it looks kind of shitty because it was disc only, but I think I might have picked this game up for like $1 somewhere, so, I mean, it was worth picking up for a disc only copy. And same thing happened with Persona 3. As you can see, I printed my own cover art because I have it disc only, but for some reason I have a Final Fantasy manual in there. I have no idea why. Another game I haven't played yet, Disgaea Afternoon of Darkness. Yeah, I haven't played. I couldn't tell you anything about this game. I haven't played it yet. Yagdra Union. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I do remember, I've played this game, it's been a while, but I do believe this is kind of similar to Dragon Force on the Sega Saturn. If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, Yagdra, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Yagdra Union. And we have Final Fantasy Tactics, War of the Lions, a great game. You know, look up some videos on it. You know, this is like a $10 game. If you find it and you own a PSP, you need this game. I'm not huge on strategy RPGs, but this game is a great one. And another RPG I played a little bit of, wasn't too crazy about, and that's Valhalla Knights 2. So guys, that's just the end of the first stack. Now, let's get into some of the games that I really love on the system. Okay guys, so this stack of games, trust me, this stack of games make the system worth owning, I'm telling you. So the first game that I love, that I played, and I think is an awesome game. Now, it's not the best game in the series, but it's a really good one, and that's Tales of the World Radiant Mythology. You know, I think the thing that I liked most about this game is, you know, I haven't played every single Tales game, but I think I own all the North American releases anyway. Like, I haven't played, like, the PS3 and PS4 version of Tales of Zestiria, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, I noticed a lot of characters from a lot of different series all combined into one, and I thought that was really great about this game. And I just love the characters, and I love the flow of the story. The only thing I didn't like is how you have to customize your character in the beginning of the game, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, Tales of the World Radiant Mythology, awesome, awesome game. Okay, here's another heavy hitter. This is probably one of my favorite RPGs on the system. It's kind of like two RPGs in one, and they both play like right around 20 hours each. I remember I went to Ocean City and I beat the first part of the game with Cecilia, and that game is Hexy's Force. Now, I've heard a lot of people say this is one of the rarer games on the system, although that might be true. And I think I either bought this game online or got it at Best Buy. I forget which. It's been a while since I got this game. But I think the price on this game is like right around $40. And, you know, you might want to get it soon before the price goes up, because this is, I'm telling you, for some people, this is their favorite game on the system, and for good reason. It's just good. The characters, the story. Although I haven't played and beat this game as Levant, I did play it and finish it as Cecilia. But awesome game, Hexy's Force. You see it, buy it. It's worth owning. Now, this next game I actually bought this one online. I remember buying it online, but I could have had it for $10 at a retro game store. They actually had a copy. In my area, a lot of them sell imports, so this is an import worth importing from PAL regions, and that's Breath of Fire 3. You know, the same version that was on the PS1, they just released it on the PSP. It's in English. You know, if you ever play Breath of Fire 3, same game on the PSP. Now, this is another strategy RPG, and like I said, I'm not huge on strategy RPGs, but this one's pretty good. I wasn't super into the characters, but I was super into the story, and that's Joan d'Arc. But it's pretty much kind of a reimagining of the story of Joan of Arc. But yeah, definitely worth owning. If you see it, pick it up. Now, this next game I printed cover art for, again, because I found it disc only. And that game is Ys Books 1 and 2. Now, I have this on a couple other systems, and they're all like different versions of the same game. But the first system I ever owned this on was the TurboGrafx CD. I still have my copy. You know, it was very innovative at the time. You know, when a lot of people saw Zelda, you know, people saw this and they either, you know, didn't want to give it a try because they were into Zelda, or they saw this for what it was and realized it was an awesome game. And, you know, this is one of the first games that I noticed they started to bring Japanese RPGs over into the United States. And although I didn't really know about the concept of doing that at the time, I did play this game on the Turbo CD and I loved it. And I thought it was weird. There was no attack button because it was just like an A and B button on the controller, like an NES. But you attack characters by running into them, which, you know, it worked at the time. But yeah, Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles. You see it, buy it. Even if it's disc only, it's worth owning. Now, this one is complete, and I do believe I own this. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. I apologize if I'm wrong. But Ys Oath of Felghana, I do believe I own. I think I played and beat this originally on the PS2. I do believe. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. But I do believe I own this, played it, and beat it on the PS2. It's another good Ys game. Check it out. Now, this game kind of climbed in price recently, and this is another game where there's a lot of customization options early on in the game. But it is really good. It's got a good story, and there's a lot of people that are, you know, fanatics about this series, and that is Phantasy Star Portable 2. Now, I do not own Phantasy Star Portable 1. I bought this one at a retro game store. At the time, it was like 20 bucks, and that was a lot of money at the time for a PSP game. But I think this is maybe $40 now, but yeah, it's pretty good. If you see it, buy it. And that's Phantasy Star Portable 2. Now, this next game is one that it's a Final Fantasy game, and I do believe it's a prequel to Final Fantasy VII. And this is one of the only Final Fantasy VII games that was released after the original release, and that is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. I remember playing this game. The graphics on the PSP were well represented on this game. They did an amazing job programming it, and it's like a $5, maybe $7 game. If you see it, it's worth owning. Anyone that's played this game knows how good it is. You see this, pick it up. Now, this next game, okay, this is one of my top 3. This next game I own on the PS1. It's a very expensive game. I've had it for over a decade. And this is a version of that that's actually better than the original because it has added cutscenes. At least, again, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below, but I believe this has added cutscenes that were never released on the PS1 version. At least that's what I've noticed. I've played and completed both versions, and that's Valkyrie Profile Lenneth. Now, this is an awesome timing-based, turn-based RPG. It's so good. It's kind of if you've played Super Robot Taisen OG Endless Frontier, it has a similar battle system to Super Robot Taisen OG Endless Frontier. It's a long name. That's actually the best RPG on the DS, in my opinion. You know what? Fuck it. Super Robot Taisen OG Saga Endless Frontier, I believe I said that right, is the best RPG on the Nintendo DS. You know, I'll argue that shit to my grave. That is the best RPG on the system. You know, what's your favorite RPG on the DS? I know we're talking about the PSP, but you know, I saw this game and I instantly thought about Robot Taisen on the DS. That Robot Taisen game was actually one of the only releases we had in the US, you know, outside of a couple of Game Boy Advance releases and some PS4 releases that were actually they were dubbed in English. So anyway, that's enough about that tangent on Robot Taisen. But guys, Valkyrie Profile Lenneth is like a $20 game. I've had this for years. I saw this at one of my local retro game stores, and it sat on the shelf for about 3 months. And I was so pissed off that nobody bought this game. Every time I went in there, I'd pick the game up. I would be like, hey, who owns a PSP? Y'all need to buy this right here. And every time I went in there, I tried advertising this game. Nobody bought it until one day I went in there, and it was gone. Somebody finally bought it. And I was actually kind of sad because even though I wanted somebody else to experience this game, I was so used to seeing it on the shelf. But yeah, Valkyrie Profile Lenneth, this is one to own on the system, let me tell you. Now, this next game, I have mixed feelings. It's actually a really good game. It's a little bit lighthearted. I thought it was going to be more serious, but it's really good. And this is another one that's climbed in price recently. But, you know, just play this game if you see it, and that is Crimson Gem Saga. It's so good. Something interesting about this game, I do believe Korean developers from South Korea, I'm assuming South Korea, made this game and ported it over. I guess Atlas brought it over here for the United States. But yeah, South Korean game. I do believe, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. But it's definitely worth owning. And it is climbing in price. And this is rare. I haven't seen it in any retro game stores, at least that I've been in, or at any conventions. But yeah, Crimson Gem Saga. It's one to check out. Now, I've mentioned a couple of strategy RPGs, and again, that's not my favorite style of RPGs. They have to do a battle system that really works right. And this next game, they did it. And I think it's one of the only Wild Arm games in the series that's a strategy RPG. But anyways, guys, Wild Arms XF. I think this game has climbed in price. I remember I bought this game years ago, but I remember it was like $10 to $15 for the longest time. And then one day I checked, and people were selling copies of this game for like $50, and there was none on sale online. So at some point, somebody did a video on this game and people bought it, but I see why, because it's so good. But yeah, Wild Arms XF. Check it out. Okay, so I've shown you guys some pretty excellent games, and I believe that all the games I've shown you thus far, that's reason enough to own a PSP. But these next two games I'm going to show you, at least for me, and my taste and what I like, these two games are reason enough to own a system just for these two games alone. So the first game I'm going to show you was never released in the United States. It was actually released in PAL territories, but that's okay. You just have to import it. And my copy is sealed. And the only reason my copy is sealed because I downloaded the game because I couldn't wait for it. When I found out about this game years ago, I was actually excited and new in the store. This thing had a $50 price tag. I didn't pay $50. I think I might have paid $40 or $45 for it. This was a pricier game. But anyways, guys, this is Tales of Eternia on the PSP. Now, some of you may have played this game. As a matter of fact, I own this on the PlayStation 1, and I own it as Tales of Destiny 2. Now, in Japan and PAL regions, or in Europe or whatever, this was known as Tales of Eternia. There was an actual Tales of Destiny 2 that was released. It was only in Japan, but they called Tales of Eternia Tales of Destiny 2 here in the United States. So you see how this can get kind of confusing? Now, there was a Tales of Destiny 2, a true Tales of Destiny 2. It was released on the PlayStation 2 only in Japan, and was also actually released on the PSP only in Japan. Now, if a version of that game is going to be translated, I'm assuming it's going to be the PSP version because it's easier to emulate the game. You can add the the patch to it or whatever the case may be. But I can't wait until somebody cracks the code or whatever, releases the patch to play the true Tales of Destiny 2 on the PSP. I've been waiting to play that game for over a decade. I really want to play it. And you can buy it online, the Japanese game anyway, for like $5. It's super cheap. Hopefully when they release that patch, I'll actually go ahead, buy the game, and just have like a physical representation of that game in my collection. But guys, there's actually two versions of this game, and I don't know which one this is. There was a version that came out that has a glitch in it. It's called the Vault Glitch, and apparently you can't get past a certain section in the game if you have a glitched version of the game. This is, I got it in a plastic case. I'll show you my copy. Still got the plastic wrapping on it. So I don't know what you would look for on here to tell if this is a glitched version. Maybe one of you guys know. You can let me know in the comments below. But, this is my my copy of the game. I just never opened it. Like I said, I downloaded the game. And if you have a soft-modded PSP, just download your ROMs off the internet and just throw them right on the SD card. The games play natively. You can actually format PS1 games to play on a PSP. The PSP is the best emulation system, hands down. I got a GPD XD and it's great and all, but my PSP shits on it. So, anyways, guys, Tales of Eternia. You see this game, you buy this game. Even if it's $50, you buy it. It's just what you do. Okay. So, this last game. Now, this series got me into video game collecting. See, I really don't consider myself a video game collector. I'm a video game player. If it's a good game and I like it, I save it so I can play it later. So that's how that started. Anyway, maybe that's just how I justify it in my own head. Maybe those are the lies that I tell myself. Anyway, so this game, not this game in particular, but this series and a version of this game, like I said, got me into video game collecting. The remake of this game, and I'll show you in a second, the remake of this game was actually the first game I played in the series. It was on the PlayStation 1. And I loved it. I loved it right away. My friend Justin Henderson, we were at a GameStop in Waldorf, Maryland, in Charles County, and he bought this game for the PS1. I'd never heard of it before. I asked him about it, and he's like, "What? Yeah, it was a great Sega CD game." I'm sure you guys have put two and two together by now, but that's Lunar, Silver Star Harmony, or it's a remake of Lunar 1. So Lunar 1 was released on, at least in the U.S., it was released on other systems in Japan, but in the U.S. it was released on the Sega CD, it was released on the PS1, it was released on the Game Boy Advance, and it was released on the PSP. And the PSP version of this game is great. I will always prefer the PS1 version. And I don't own, the only game in the Lunar series released in North America that I don't own is Lunar 1 for the Sega CD. Now, I have Lunar 2 Eternal Blue on the Sega CD, but playing Lunar 1 on the Sega CD, you'll notice that the intro, like the music, is like heavy metal. It's very uncharacteristic of the Lunar series, and it's funny because that was the first game brought over here from Japan. But it's like a $100 game. It's kind of pricey, but it is one I'm going to pick up eventually. Anyways, guys, this collector's edition, I believe it's probably, as you can see, it wasn't released by Working Designs. It was XC Games because Working Designs is no more. I wish they were. I wish they could have put this game out in even bigger packaging. But it comes with art cards. It comes with a CD soundtrack. It comes with the game. And I love this game. And as a matter of fact, the way that this version of Lunar 1 starts out, there's like this big battle that takes place. And it matches. All the games match up. But every version of Lunar 1 that comes out, they mix the gameplay elements up, at least the story anyway, so different people are seen in different parts of the game, and different things happen in different parts of the game within the context of the story. But yeah, this is a really good game to own, guys. If you see this game, you're probably only going to find it in just a regular case, unless you go to the right retro game store, order it online. I imagine a copy like this with all the collector's edition stuff's probably 70, 80 bucks maybe. I would say a good value on just if you find it just like this in the case. I'd say $40 or $50. It's definitely worth that. I would pay that for this game because it is that good. But I just wanted to let you guys know that a version of Lunar did come out on the PSP, and it is excellent. This is actually, I'm not going to say this is the first game that I played and beat on the PSP, because I owned one of those red Kratos PSPs back in the day, and I played a lot of games on that. But after I got into RPGs again, this was actually the first game that I played and I beat on the PSP at that time in my life. And I hold this game to high regard. If you see it, you buy it. And guys, those are just the games that I happen to have on the PSP. Again, I probably don't even own half of the library of RPGs, and there's many other great genres of games that are well represented on the system that I own, a lot of. I just didn't bring them with me. Platformers, you got Prenny, you got Prenny 2. That Prenny 2 is kind of expensive. Many platformers. You have shoot 'em ups, There was some shoot 'em ups, like especially Japanese ones that were never released over here that are great. PSP, it's region free. Obviously, I showed you some PAL region games. And it's just a really good system, guys. The library on the PSP, like Sony really did it right. It is a damn shame that they couldn't continue the legacy with the Vita. It sucks that the Vita died out, although I love the Vita, but I guess they didn't market it right. They never told anybody about that remote play. I think that would have been a system seller for the Vita, but we ain't talking about the Vita. We're talking about the PSP. So if you don't own a PSP, the one that you should buy, there's a few different models, but I would stick with the 2000 and the 3000 model. I happen to have a 2000 model. Reason being, you can hook composite cable. You can hook a cable up to the thing and play it on the TV. Now, you could buy a PSP Go. I actually have a PSP Go with the dock that it sits on. Now, a PSP Go is great too, but the only thing with the PSP Go, you can buy physical representations of the game and own them, but you're going to have to download those games on the PSP Go anyway and play them digital, which it does kind of suck that you can't play the physical games. There's no UMD drive, but the cool thing about the PSP Go is the way it emulates, PS1 and PSP game, or not emulates, but the way it plays them. I guess it does emulate PS. No, they play natively on there, so yeah, it doesn't emulate anything. But the way it projects the PSP games and the PS1 games on the TV, it looks great, and that's probably why the PSP Go is climbing in price. Buy a PSP Go if you can, because you can play with DualShock 3s. It's pretty awesome. You don't have to have the PSP hooked up to the TV with the wire on your lap. And although I don't mind playing like that, it is cool playing with a PSP Go docked with a PS3 controller. Anyways, guys, what are some of your favorite games on the PSP? Not necessarily just RPGs. Let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for new games to buy on the system because I love the PSP so much. And as a matter of fact, I found out about a game last night. And I would tell you guys about this game, but there's not that many of them online, so I'll show it to you when I get it. I don't want any competition out there when I buy this game. It's not super expensive, but it's hard for me to find games that really blow my mind. But I found out about this game last night, and when I saw it, I was just like, I was done. I was like, I gotta own it. So I will show you that, guys, once I get it. But until then, I'm gonna keep you wondering. Anyways. Again, let me know in the comments below, what are some of your favorite PSP games, or what are some of your favorite RPGs on the system? And, I'm sure your list is going to be different than mine, but, I just showed you some of my favorites, but I just showed you every RPG I own on the system. Guys, remember to like this video. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Until next time.